Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello and welcome to the WolfCast. WolfCast is brought to you by Drogheda Wolves Basketball Club, and I'm your host Noel. On today's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Siobhan Hackett. Siobhan is currently an underage coach in our club, as well as being a volunteer. Hope you enjoy. Hi Siobhan, how are you?
Hi Noel, how are you?
Good, how are you keeping?
I'm good. I'm nervous, but anyway, happy to be here with you, I suppose, on a lovely sunny evening.
Yeah, it's sunny, it's Friday, and
yeah,
hopefully the weather lasts us the weekend as we go back coaching, which is great.
Yeah, it's been great. The weather has been fantastic for outdoor coaching, so we've been lucky.
Makes it an awful lot easier, doesn't it?
It does indeed, it does, yeah. It's really, really good. We've been very lucky, yeah.
So to start the podcast, like every other one, so obviously with yourself, it's probably going to be a little bit of a different story, obviously with your experience and work. So how has COVID or lockdown been treating you?
Oh, that could be a podcast in itself. Well, I work in the front line in healthcare, as you know, and so from a professional point of view, COVID has been very real for me in many ways. Fortunately, I didn't manage to contract COVID, but I've seen it at work. And my husband works in healthcare education, so it's been a double whammy here in the house, just with the experience of COVID and the reality of it. And the boys then being in school and Owen doing his leaving cert was another reality of COVID and being very difficult. But we've come through it, as Jim Agnew said last night, which I thought was very nice at the meeting. He kind of said, we could talk about all the negatives, but we've come through it, and I know people have been badly affected by it, but we're fortunate ourselves here that we've come through it, and it's been an experience. And just when healthcare was kind of coming out of it and getting vaccinations up and running, then we got hit by the cyber attack. So really, it's, as I said, it could be a podcast in itself. From a personal point of view, then I had my mother in a long-term nursing home care, and she died at the end of January. So it's been a tough year with COVID and not being able to visit. So yeah, COVID has been one to remember and one for the diaries, to be honest. It's been tough.
Most definitely, and obviously, like I know quite a lot of Filipino nurses that work in the hospital. Speaking to them, and it's been tough and a challenge, but I think as you've rightly identified, and as Jim said last night in our AGM, I think the positives are now starting to outweigh the negatives, which is great. And obviously with the weather being so sunny, and then obviously we are starting to get back to basketball, I think that gives everyone a huge positive, and it gives us something to look forward to, and it really is a light at the end of the tunnel for everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, at the start of COVID last year, which I know Kieran McGragan alluded to in his podcast, Cullum's under 14 team with Emer had reached the All-Ireland Club Championships. That was pulled. They'd reached the top fours. That was pulled. So from a basketball point of view, COVID has been, I suppose we suffered a lot as a sport. And again, you could talk about it forever. And I felt sorry for them, to pull that, to get into the All-Ireland Club Championships is such an achievement. Emer had done some great work with the team, and from Colin's point of view, he was very, very disappointed. And then Owen, missed out. I suppose he played under 18, and then they were just getting started with the under 20s, and that sort of thing. So it was very, very, very disappointing to end it like that. And we thought it was only going to be for a couple of weeks, but it ended up being a long time. And I think the seriousness of it. I think the kids our kids have been resilient. They understood, I suppose, they understood how real it was and the seriousness of, but you have to try and protect, we have to try and protect them as well. You didn't want to make everything too pessimistic. So, we tried to keep the conversations light, but real, and they had to go to school and do their homework and that sort of thing. So it was just a different way, something to tell their own children that they survived.
I think that's going to be something that's going to be talked about for a long time, because it's one of them generational things. Like I know from my parents, they had that one big event in their generation, and it's something that is going to be talked about for generations. Because
absolutely.
As you right,
and it's not over yet, Noel. Really, I suppose, not to be too pessimistic. It's not over yet. We are coming out of it, so we still have to be vigilant. I sound like Mr. Houlihan, Dr. Houlihan, but we have to still be vigilant, and we have to mind each other and do what we can to keep coming out the other side, I suppose, really, which is really important. So.
Most definitely. And obviously, just to go back to Colin, because obviously, I've said it and I alluded to it a lot of times, like obviously there's tons of unfinished business, let alone in our club, but in every other sport. And obviously I worked with Colin in the North Academy, and we didn't get to finish the academy. The boys didn't get to go to Gormanstown to have all camp. And obviously there's Irish selections that were missed as well. So there's all of them things, but I think that will light a fire under a lot of people to give them that incentive.
Yeah, and I think the club has done a tremendous amount of work, trying to keep those fires burning. You would hate to think that you've lost players because of COVID, but I suppose we would have to accept that reality, and I work with the underage group, as you know, the under 12s, and my team, I never got to take them onto a game, which was heartbreaking because they had 2 years under 12, you know what I mean? So the team that I had, and I watched them play there at a few challenge games. They played the under 14 girls team there last week, and I had to send a text to the parents. They were fantastic, so the potential is there. You just have to keep hungry and keep on hoping that we'll get started in September and we can get back playing again. I
think that's the most important thing, is we just, as you said, like we still need to be vigilant and still need to be cautious and take all them steps to make sure that we do out of it and don't as such relapse. And obviously I know our club is very strict in regards to COVID measures, and it is standing to us as a club.
It is.
And obviously from everyone, especially for me, like obviously I've had to shield and protect due to family circumstance, my wife, and to actually physically go back to a coaching session last weekend, it done me a world of good, even just to watch and see. And this week in work was easy, where compared in the last couple of weeks, look, it's just the way things go, and obviously
there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I firmly believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think the fact that we're back training, that we've got our guidance to go indoor, that we're waiting for guidance for September, maybe for the league, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. People are getting vaccinated, the numbers are down in hospitals, they're down in the ICUs, so everything is looking good. That's the way I would say. I would be.
And I think we just, as you said, we need to keep going, and obviously we'll hopefully, fingers crossed, get back to. We say normality, but it's going to be a new normality.
It is. It's going to be after COVID, before COVID. Remember, before COVID, well, this is after COVID. It's going to be a bit different, so it'll take a while.
It's like, obviously for me being a kid who it was all about the Y2K crash and the millennium when you talked about that. And
that's right. I was
going to be like that.
And I was on night duty when the 2K crash was supposed to happen, because they thought the healthcare system would fall apart because the computers would go to 0000200, whatever it was, and that never happened. So so we had all of that. It'll be their story and our story to tell in the future.
It's taken 21 years for the HSE to crash.
Oh God, and did it what?
So to get back on track, and obviously just to go to the next one where we go with everyone, and so let's go back to the very start of things. So who, what, or why got you involved or got you started in basketball?
Oh, I've had a nice time reflecting about this since Elaine Scally asked for me to come on this show. It's been quite reflective. Okay, I lived in Mallow, and the boys will kill me for saying this, but it's very important to let you know that I'm from Cork.
As you do every week.
They said, Mom, please don't say that. But anyway, I lived in Mallow. We came home from America in 1974, and we lived in the centre of town, just like, Marion Park, Ballsgrove, Congress Avenue, that sort of location. And the youth centre was very near us. And my parents, now I know why, as a parent myself, had us in everything but the crib. So by the age of 4, I was doing Irish dancing. By the age of 5, I was swimming. I was playing the piano. And then I just said, my friend was playing basketball, and I said, can I join? And my mother said, sure, why not? And Johnny Murphy, so people who would know Cork basketball, Johnny Murphy ran the club himself. And those were the days when you had one person who gave his life and soul to a club. And he literally did, I'm no exaggeration, he ran the club. So I started when I was about 6, and I suppose I took to basketball very quickly, And by the time, we played in Grania Braher, up in the hall, and we played. I trained every Thursday night, every Saturday morning. There was one Sunday, I was thinking about it, I played a basketball match, I went and swam in the gala, and then I had to go and dance in the fesh later on, you know, that sort of thing. So I was a very active child. So then I suppose I try to be modest. I was a good juvenile younger player, you know, from my age, and I went into secondary school at the age of 12 into the Mercy in Mallow. Mallow has a very strong history of basketball, huge history, and very strong, you know, underage teams, and the schools would have had a huge. My brother would have played basketball when we came home as well, and he would have played on the local boys team. And the girls' convent, the secondary school, had a strong history of basketball and doing well in successful teams. And so at that time there was Cork junior, I suppose Cork under 15 girls teams, and I made that when I went into secondary school. So I was I suppose 12 and a half when I made the under 15 girls team, and then I got selected for the Irish squad. So that was my claim to fame. I played for schoolgirls basketball for 4 years, 2 years under 15 and 2 years under 17, and unfortunately I did it to the detriment of my schoolwork. So when I did my Leaving Cert the first time around, I wasn't the most successful student, which my kids love to slag me about. And so I stopped playing basketball after. I couldn't believe it. I was just thinking about it, saying, you know, it consumed my life from the age of 6 until the age of 17. I went to Dungarvan every summer. I was away for weekends. I was away more often than I was at home. You know, got the opportunity to go to England, Scotland, and Wales at the home internationals. Played with the likes of Anne-Marie Kine, which I know that Maeve and Eamon will remember from Oughterard, and Michelle Maguire and Jerry Fitzpatrick trained me from Waterford. So I was really into basketball, and I gave up basketball then at the end of when I finished my Leaving Cert the first time around, and I said I'd go back and concentrate. My parents were very much advocates of, you know, getting a good education and stuff, and my sister and my brother had gone to college, so I had to get my finger out. So I gave up basketball for the year. I think I played up until December, and then I never went back. I suppose, I know it sounds a bit like my father died the following year, very young, and I suppose I had a crisis in my life at that stage, I suppose, and I went nursing, and I tried to go back when I was in Dublin, but I was really, really unfit. A friend of mine from Tralee was playing in Dublin, and with nursing and with shift work and stuff like that, I never kind of went back playing again. And so that was my basketball history. Very proud of Mallow, very proud of Johnny Murphy, very proud of the club. It produced some wonderful players. You know, Mary Breen played for Glenmire, Donna Buckley played for Glenmire. You know, there was lots of international. We always had an international. Nearly every year had a Gillian Ahern, who Maeve, I think, coached on an international team and she was down in Noel. She came from Mallow. And Johnny Murphy, like when I think of the club today in Wolves, with the Wolves, and I think of Johnny Murphy and how much he gave to his life to that, you know, I mean, it's just so it shows how far basketball has come. You know, it's not a one-person show anymore, you know. But those reflecting on it over just getting ready for this podcast, which has freaked me out, and quite a reflective period. And they were great days. I mean, I grew up in Grown. I grew up every Saturday Grown, and like Roger Kelleher was coaching us. Frances Sullivan was up there. Paula Wilkinson, you know, she played with me on the Irish squad. Tracy, Caroline Ford, all those older names from the 80s. You know what I mean? So, and then I stopped. I went nursing. I learned how to party. I then did my midwifery training, came back to Cork, but I was kind of at that stage, like basketball was just in the past, you know, it wasn't part of me anymore, you know, and went to England for a while and came back to Drogheda. I married a Drogheda man, and I met people, actually, it was funny, I was just thinking about that. When I was in Dungarvan for the 4 years, I made 2 girls from Clogherhead, the McAvoys, who were actually related to Owen McAvoy, their Owen McAvoy sisters. And I actually came up to Clogherhead for one weekend, and spent the weekend with them. Little did I know that I'd be living 5 miles over the road, maybe 30 years later, you know what I mean? So, or 20 years later. So, yes, I married Miles from Drogheda and from Ballsgrove, and we came home in 1998. I made a brief sort of return to Maudsley ladies, because Miles would have been very friendly with Deirdre McIntaggart, Deirdre Byrne. Barbara Byrne, they would have all been growing up together. And I went back and I trained and I played my first game. And I think Caroline Black, who's due to come on this, I believe, as well. I met her in the corridor the other day at work, and I said, "You're going after me, I hope." And I went and played my first game with Mosney, and I tore my Achilles tendon. So my mother said, "Now you're too old to be playing basketball." I was 28 at the time. So that was my playing career. You know, I mean, I had a great junior underage. I was only talking to Emer about that the other day. The structure for development in basketball now, I think, is much better than what it was back then. I was 12 and a half, 13, and that was, I felt, looking back, a lot of pressure on somebody to maintain that standard, you know. So I made it the first year, then I got selected 1 year in Drogheda. We came up to Drogheda to play in the interregionals, got selected another year in Galway, and it was a lot of pressure, I suppose, you know. If you make it the first time, then you have to try and make it the next time, and then you go up to under 17. And I was fortunate. I was very fortunate, you know what I mean. And I was the type of player that would have, I'd bite your legs to get the ball off, you know what I mean. I was a terrier, you know what I mean. I was tall at the start, but then I didn't grow any taller. Someone got 5'8", 5'7.5", 5'8". So I was a fighter, you know. I would have done anything to get the ball off, you know what I mean. That was the type of player I was. Yeah, so that was my basketball career. That was my playing career.
Well, look, and obviously I think you're obviously being very humble and modest, and get that from knowing you. Like, it's obviously, as you said, like Mallow it's like an institution in Cork for producing players, and that doesn't happen by accident. And I know as you like to remind all of us up here, that Cork is the mecca of basketball in your opinion.
Or in my opinion, yeah.
And
it's also the home of Munster rugby and, you know, the sort of thing. So I am very pro Cork. It's the People Republic. There's Cork, and then there's the rest of Ireland, you know. So anyway,
as I also get very friendly reminded by when I talk to my relations in Cork that it's like, so I'm very well used to it. So look, it's good to look back and it's good to reflect. And obviously, as you said, like, sport took over your life, and you may have not done very well academic wise, and I'll be very guilty of that. But you learn from your lessons, and
I made up for it afterwards. I went back to college afterwards. I did it in reverse, my mother said. I did it in reverse. So I'm trying to prevent that now in my kids. Don't do what I did. Do it now when you're in school, you know what I mean? But listen, no one could tell me when I was going to school. So I had to do it the other way.
And through your life lessons, you can impart it into your two boys.
Yeah, they don't listen though.
No, of course
sometimes, yeah.
Try coaching your two boys.
Well, that's you're going to ask me about how I got into coaching. We'll talk about that. What Maeve said to me.
Yeah, so like, obviously, I know from knowing you quite a couple of years now with the club, and knowing your two boys and having coached your two boys and knowing Miles, I think it's very fair to say that your family is a very sports-driven, passionate family.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I was trying to think back when the boys started and why they started and everything, and I have to be very honest. You know, I'm a firm believer in sports, for a lot of reasons. You know, for health benefits and for development. For it was just I didn't even second think it. I think when Owen was 4, I sent him over to the GA pitch and said, "Off you go." And he's looking at me with his blonde hair, kind of going, "What?" I said, "Go on, you're off." So I would, like, from that independent point of view, you know, that they would get out and they'd get teammates. And so by the time they played basketball, so Owen was 9 and Colin was just 5 in the summer of that year. I think it was 2011. And I'll be honest in saying we were short a week for childcare. And my in-laws, both dead now, God rest them, were great to us. And we didn't want, like, we were both working, and we just said, what are we going to do? So Geraldine Doyle's mother, Liz, Jerry involved in the club. Jerry's a very good family friend. She said, Jerry's going to, Kevin are going to a basketball camp. Do you want to send them? And I was like, yeah, sure, grand. And I said, yeah, we'll send them. And then Miles' parents would pick them up in St. Mary's afterwards and bring them over to Ballsgrove, and everything was fine. So I went to work, Miles went to work, the lads went to basketball camp, whatever, and sure, I knew nothing really except that I had done the Mosney thing, but that was years beforehand. And that was with the weekend, work was busy, whatever. And I remember then on the Friday, Owen said to me, Dad said we can join basketball. And I'm like, what? Dad said what? And I'm looking at him and he goes, oh yeah, I might have. And at this stage, Owen and Colin were both playing Gaelic, both playing hurling or whatever, both playing soccer, and both in Scouts. So you can imagine everything but the crib. My mother-in-law said, those children are in everything but the crib. So it was just another sport to add on. And I suppose the rest they say is history. Colin, I remember Maeve, Colin played with Maeve's underage. I think Dev, Jim Agnew last said Colin was playing under 12 since he's been 5, because he played with Kieran Agnew, he played with Dev, he played with all the lads that were there, because one of his sessions clashed with Scouts, and Maeve said, sure, he can play with the under 12s. I said, he's 6 or 7. She goes, yeah, he'll be great. So that was it. So he played under 12 for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Owen was on 11 when he started, and then they just continued, and they loved it. And they loved the club. There was no way I could get them, and not that I wanted them to. I was secretly delighted, of course, that they were playing. And when I said to people in Mallow, the lads are playing, the first thing they'd say, oh, you have 2 boys, are they playing basketball? Because that was just assumed, that. Yeah. And I said, oh yeah, they're playing, yeah, sort of thing. So I was delighted, absolutely delighted. Yeah. So.
And obviously, I think it's something we should go back to, obviously, because in the Bullets days, like you and the 2 boys came along, like in regards, like we were still very new in regards to the underage. I wasn't that long involved, and the underage setup was quite new. And I remember I had the 12s, like obviously when Colin or when Owen joined, and like even when I look back to that group, like there's still quite a lot of them still involved around, and it's so great to see. And obviously, as you said, like your boys play multiple sports and they get the benefits of that through, as you said, health wise, but also fundamentals and development wise in regards to their athleticism.
Yeah. And interpersonal skills as well, I think, you know what I mean? And just, being around with other kids and teamwork. And, it's good to have kids out, and about, that would be another podcast, sitting down and talking about kids sitting at home on their PlayStations all the time, not going out and all that sort of thing. So it's a good thing to have them out, you know what I mean? You can have them in too much, which I would agree, but I really just firmly believe that the sports thing was important. I wouldn't have been aware of, I suppose, the history of the club up until then. My kids were the kids joined, and I went into town and dropped them in and went for a run or went for a walk or something like that and came back and collected them. You know what I mean? But I was always kind of watching, like, what are they doing? Are they good? Are they playing? Are they aggressive enough? Are they assertive enough? And I'd be shouting at them, of course, as you know yourself, and we'd have little analysis coming home in the car afterwards. But but they loved it. There was a lovely atmosphere. It was lovely.
Yeah, and obviously from there to where we are now, obviously I think like there is that community aspect of that, and I think it's created an awful lot of relationships, and it's created an awful lot of bonds through kids that have grown up together and played together, and you see it now with some of the groups in regards, like some of them are still best friends. You see it with families in regards that bonds are created.
And it's good for the different schools as well, that you like when you have a club like that, because St. Oliver's is strong basketball, St. Joseph's is strong basketball, St. Mary's, the boys, I'm speaking from the boys' point of view, while they're with their schools, they also play together with their club, which I think is great to kind of have a sense of unity, within the town, you know what I mean? That they're not just Ollie's boys or St. Joseph's or whatever, that the club actually reaps that benefit then as well. And then, there's a rivalry there, all right, but it's not an unhealthy rivalry, because they all have to end up playing together then as well within the club, which I think is great.
So obviously, as we discussed earlier, you, as I think I coined it in regards where you wear multiple hats, obviously in your own personal life, but even in the club, like, so obviously we've talked around the point that obviously you're a parent of 2 boys that are involved in the club. But also you yourself are very heavily involved in the club in regards, first and foremost, you're a volunteer, you're a coach, you're in the committee, you are also part of the bigger group that, helped form Wolves in regards going through all that planning process. Thankfully, I was able to get out of that very early. So I was very relieved with that. But I think we should look at maybe some of them aspects in regards, they all pose challenges and different challenges. And obviously you talked, obviously, yourself and Miles are both in, we'll say, the health industry. So let's talk around the challenges of being a parent that obviously has a full-time job that deals with shifts, having 2 very active sporting boys, and then obviously trying to be a coach and and helping the club as well.
Well, I suppose if you go back and say, well, why did I get involved in the club? I suppose I was, we live about 5 miles outside the town. So when we would come in, I would have to one of us would have to drop the kids off, and so you would be in town anyway, and the lads knew that I played basketball, and they would have known that I I suppose I would have said, they said, well, would you not coach, Mom? And I'd be like, but I think Colm, our own, said, my mother will coach, when Maeve, and Maeve was looking at me, and Maeve didn't know who I was from Adam, really. I mean, it's probably this loud mother on the side going, oh my God, I really don't think I want her. But I would have been, so she said, I believe you want to coach. And I said, well, I just said, Maeve made it look very easy. Okay, and she did, yeah, she made it look, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that, I could coach it, oh my God, how naive was I really? And I just thought, I played. Now you have to remember the court that I played on it was just beginning at the end of the 8. It was like a 3-point was coming in, and the key was like that. It wasn't straight, you know what I mean? So things had changed, but that's how I got involved. I wasn't on any committee or anything like that. I just made some, well, would you like to coach? And I said, yeah, sure. And Miles was involved, and I think we were very happy to be involved because the kids were happy, and we were happy. It was a good club that we felt to be involved with, and Miles and myself went to our introductory coaching course up in Dublin. And that was the first time I met Emer. She was just introduced. It was Maeve's sister, you know what I mean? And she played for Miles. Is laughing. He says, because Miles never bounced a ball in his life. He wasn't one of St. Mary's sporting boys. He was, he said that himself, like he played handball, I think was his thing. And he broke his hand playing it, whatever. But he wasn't a sporting person. But he was happy to get involved to help me because my mother, I was going up and down to Cork, and if I was busy, so he was happy to help. So he did the introduction course with me, but had no history. But Francis O'Sullivan gave that course, and that's where it started. So Maeve gave me the under-11 team at the time that was allowed to play in Dublin. So on that team was Conor McCreast, Siobhan Hackett. I think I'm trying to think of the rest. I think Conor Nolte was on it. All those boys they were under 11. Sean Stephen Donnelly's son, Sean. Kids who are still playing now. Yeah. All played, and we went to Dublin and we played in the North League, you know what I mean? So, and we won 50% of our games, and it was an eye-opener to me, and I absolutely loved it, and I got a great buzz out of it. Now my coaching skills and my demeanour on the side of the court, I probably left a lot to be desired, but I really, really loved it. And but then I suppose there was a naivety in me of coaching. I suppose Maeve laughs at me when I say that. She said, Siobhan, you work in a very stressful job. You work in the front line. You work in intensive care, seriously. And I'm like, but coaching is about confidence and it's about knowledge. Yeah. And I listened to Elaine as well on her other podcast that she did on the shot clock. And I listened to her, and she said, and you have to learn by mistakes, and it is a learning. So I feel that I'm the case of a person who's old dog, new tricks. And, probably less, I was born in the 70s, we just put it like that. And, it's a bit daunting. And I feel that I want to give the kids, I want to do right by them. You know what I mean? So I think I know my limit, is what I said to Maeve. I would lack an awful lot of confidence taking, kids who are really, really good players, like under 16 players, under 14 player, because I feel they need that knowledge. Whereas going back to my coach, Johnny Murphy, basics, running, passing, layups, 1-2, free throw technique, pass and cut, this sort of thing. That's all I'd say to the lads. Pass and cut. That's my two boys when they're playing. Sure, all you have to do is pass and cut in for the rebounds, that sort of thing. So the basics of the game. But when it comes to, the rest of it, I really do lack confidence. And I've said that enough to me that she's like, right, okay, and it's really to do right by the boys is what I feel. Now, I did my level 1 as well, a level 1 coaching course as well. And, I could probably do that again, I feel. That's the way I would feel for my coaching. But that's how I got involved. I took the under-11s. We had a great season. We came to the under-12s the following year, and we played in the Northeast because we weren't played in the Dublin leagues anymore. And we got to the top 4s. We came second in the league. We were the only team to beat Mucknow, and we beat them by 1 point up in Mucknow. I don't think Jerry has ever forgiven me. And Maeve said, I don't think anybody's ever done that in the league. So of course I was like, this is amazing. And when I was doing my strategies for the game, it was like as if we were playing an NBA game, making up my players and who was playing in each quarter and how I was going to do it. And Maeve was like, oh, Siobhan, like really? You know, I was like, no. So, but that's why I got involved. And then, you know, the volunteering. I mean, if I have time, I'll help. That's the way I said. If I have time, I'll help. And that's how I got involved. And I've been involved then coaching. So Colin is now 15 this year, and he was 10 then. So I'm coaching 5 years this year.
Okay.
And then the volunteer work, and then the committee work. And I'm not, I'm on the committee, and I will help out in any way. I'm not on the executive committee, as you know, but you know, if there's something to be done and I can do it, I'll help with fundraising and stuff like that. I'll do that. And it has been, to be honest with you, basketball has been a great distraction for me personally from work.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm very lucky. I don't actually do shifts anymore, except maybe one night every 2 weeks I do call. But I work Monday to Friday. I don't do weekends. I don't do nights. So I'm available, and so I was available to take the boys in. So I'm available. So it was a great distraction from the pressure, you know, the stress of work, to be able to put my time into something else and take my head off of work. You know, so we were away every weekend. We were either in Cavan or we're in Monaghan, you know, or wherever. So it was great. Yeah, it's been good.
And you do get them benefits, and obviously, you know, you're very honest in regards what you perceived your level to be. But obviously, like me, and like pretty much most of and everyone in the club, like, you get such a great kick, and you can see your passion going through it, working with the underages. And you know, it's, everyone has their own different style, or everyone has their different mantra of how they coach. And you know, for me, you're doing it for the right reasons, like, you know, and you're being honest that you want the best for the boys, or you want the best for the girls, you want the best for the club.
For the club,
yeah. And obviously we all have different aspirations, and obviously, you know, for you use it as an outlet for work. Obviously, you work in a very stressful job, so being able to step away from that, but the skills are interchangeable, and they match. Like, you know, I'm sure you deal with people in work, you manage people in work, you plan and work, and it goes seamlessly into coaching. And I find it very transferable for the job I do, but I'm very opposite. I work to feed my basketball. I work to shoot my basketball. I go to work so I can get the basketball.
I mean, I find, like, I mean, coaching is like parenting in one way. It's difficult. There's the manual is there, but it doesn't follow the manual. You know, you have to be prepared for, and you have many different personalities, you know, with the kids and stuff. And I suppose what I've been humbled about really is, you know, parents, you know, kids play sport for different reasons, you know, and I've learned an awful lot about that aspect of life, I suppose. Even people work for different reasons, you know. So I work, you know, in nursing, and people come into work for different reasons. They have different reasons for being there. They get motivated by different things, you know, be it money, or, you know, shift work, or night duty, or the care, or the intensity of the care that they're giving. But people do different things for different reasons. And I suppose one thing that I've learned is, like, and I was Francis O'Sullivan, a good Cork man, have to say it. He said, you know, which I thought was I suppose the one thing that stuck in my head is that you will have early developers, you'll have early maturers and late developers as players. And he said they both need nurturing. And your early mature, the ones who are, you know, who can pick up a ball and bounce it in between their legs and pick up the skills very, very quickly and do a layup and shoot and all that sort of thing. You have to still nourish that player and give them challenges and bring them along and keep them interested and help them to play with players who maybe aren't as good as they are, you know what I mean? And get them to respect everybody who's there. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, that point of view. And then the late developers are the ones who you want to keep in the club, who want to play sport, who maybe aren't coordinated and, you know, that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden it all falls into place. But it's getting them from that sort of awkward stage and skill development to getting them to, you know, to a stage where they're, oh my gosh, like, oh, I can't believe that, you know, I remember him when he could barely bounce a ball. Now look at him now, you know, sort of thing. And I had a few players in mind, you know, that I think about, like one kid, who I gave him an MVP player or most improved player, the one that when he started, he was awkward, but by the end of it, he was doing left hand, right hand layups. And that doesn't come from the coach in one way, that comes from the players themselves, you know what I mean? Because they want to learn. And you get to see which kids want to learn, which kids are, and kids are shy, they're under pressure, they're playing with, they mightn't be as good. And you know, you've got a lot of different personalities and a lot of skill mix, but I thought that was one thing. And if I had a choice, I think from a personal point of view, I think I would have preferred to be in a late developer than an early matured one.
Yes, I would.
But that's personal, because I felt the pressure of sport on me, looking back now, you know, to keep that standard up, you know, from the age of, you know, I was playing under 14 when I was 10. I was playing under 16 when I was 12. You know, the sort of, you know, and maybe I should, that maybe if I had, you know, your motivation then to play is like, I have to be the best and I have to do this, you know what I mean? Whereas, you know, when you look at other kids and they're still playing, and and when you watch boys grow, then, I mean, that's just phenomenal. Like if you saw a photograph, I don't know if you saw my photograph on Instagram last night, and I'm standing next to the boys and I was like, see how they grow. And I'm like, oh, Colin is 6 foot, Owen is 6'2.5". They're still not tall enough for basketball as far as they're concerned. And then I looked at Sean Bergen the other day, who walked into men's training the other day, and I literally had to strain my neck. He's 6 foot. And, you know, so, you know, kids develop at different stages, and I think it's really important that we keep that interest, you know what I mean? And I find that challenging. You know, how am I going to keep the kid who's really, really good at a young age, how am I going to get them to develop their skills and keep going? And then keeping the kid who's a bit sort of not really sure of themselves and doesn't have confidence, how are you going to keep them going and keep them going to 16 and 17? Because boys do, you know, we've seen boys leave over the years, and I suppose that's been new to me being in the club 5 years. I've seen a couple of kids leave basketball for different reasons, and that to me is sad, I suppose, really, but there are different reasons, you know, but it's trying to keep kids involved in sport. I think it's really important as well, you know, in the club.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and it's a challenge for any club and us as a club, and it's a challenge for coaches, and it's a word I've used a lot in regards, we need to be adaptive, and we need to be able to adapt our sessions, or we need to be able to do individual work with players, or we need to be able to assign different goals so you can run the same session and change your goal outcomes for your, you know, your naturally gifted, talented player to, as you said, someone who's a late bloomer or a late blossomer. And it's very much that you plant the acorn, but it's how you treat the acorn to water it, to how it grows and how it matures. And you said Sean Bergen, like I remember Sean Bergen when he came into the academy and he played under 11 and under 12, and I'm now seeing him at the development and national league, and I'm like, dude, you're 6 foot, I'm tiny.
He would have been Owen's buddy now, playing the two of them. You know, they would have been the same team the whole way up, but we just happened to walk by him, and I said, it just looked, and you know, it's great, and it's great to see him. You know, it's, you know, so. You know,
and I get that sore neck at National League training quite a lot, because I'm still waiting for my growth sport. That hasn't happened yet. But like, you know, when you're looking at the likes of, you know, when we look at the likes of Lucas, we look at Patrick, you know, you're looking at Sean Bergen, and like for me, having worked with my coach and Max for the last couple of years, like you're seeing all these players, and I'm like, we have some monsters in height ability, and I'm like, did it just skip me? Like, you know, like I'm here going. But
it's great to have that. I think it's great to have something to work towards, as you know, for the, you know, National League now is fantastic, and you know, hopefully, you know, the ambition we go to Super League and to have the girls club and everything. It's just been, it's great for the club, you know. I suppose the other part from a coaching point of view that I would find, you know, difficult is the strategic part of it, you know what I mean? So I'm very appreciative of Basketball Ireland's rules for underage, you know, that every player has to play one, you know, for under 12, every player has to play one quarter, because kids come to sport, as I said, for different reasons, and parents pay money, you know, for their kids to be in the club, and they want to see their kids play. And it's not all about winning, as we know, but it's nice when you do win. And it's trying to get that balance of, you know, kids participate, you know, if they go to training, that they get to play at games. And you know, we've got big squads, and you know, you can only put, well, for underage you can put them all down if you want to, you know, under 12, which is fantastic. And then when they go under 14, so Basketball Ireland has done a lot, I think, for that part, you know. And you know, everything is a science now, you know, like you've got science, sports psychology and sports nutrition and all that sort of stuff. And the sports psychology, I think, you know, is like, you know, kids, how you keep them in sport and how do you keep them motivated. And if they're not going to get played, then they're not going to come, and, you know, that sort of thing. So Basketball Ireland has done really, really well, I think, to kind of, I think they could probably extend that on. I know with the under-14s, they have to play one quarter. Every player has to play one quarter, and then it's up to the coach's discretion who gets on and off after that. But I would think that if a kid goes to training every week, and commits to going to training every week, that, you know, that they, and even at under 16, that, you know, there should be a rule that every kid gets to play one quarter. Not everybody's going to agree with me on that, because it does get very competitive. But sometimes, you know, kids mightn't join basketball until they're 12 or 13 when they join secondary school. And, you know, they might have had a history, you know, being in the town, or, the, you know, that might be their first introduction. So if they join a club then, and, you know, if they're sitting on the bench, they're going to say, well, I'm not getting played and I'm not good enough and stuff like that. So I don't know what the right balance is, because I know there is, you know, about winning and skill development and, you know, A's and B's and C teams and all that sort of thing. But I think it's important that if a kid does go to training, that they do rock up, that court time is important for them as well, you know what I mean? So, but Basketball Ireland is ahead of the game, I think, you know, when it comes to that, you know, that every player has to play underage, which is fantastic. It makes my job much easier. So I stick with under 12s, thanks very much.
Become the master and the guru at that cage category.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have it, you know, it's like a little, it's a fine art, you know.
No, I do think you're right. Like, obviously, you know, we look from the parent sides, they pay a lot of money for their kids to be in sport. And I know, obviously, as a club, like, you know, we have a philosophy of Manchester, we want to include everybody, and we want to cater for everybody. And I think for us, and it's, I know I've talked about it with some other coaches, and that, like, obviously the area group we're in, it's very difficult when you have, you know, only leagues at evens. I really think there should be odds, or whether you create 2 leagues, or you create, like, so you have, say, under 12, maybe a development under 13 league, or 14 league, development 15. So you're creating more opportunities and avenues for everybody to play. And
absolutely,
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, we would see a huge influx of players at that under 12 level. Like, we've, in the last couple of years, we've had some historic numbers at under 12s, because
and under 16 and 15 member, you know, like we had like four under 15, under 16 teams, you know what I mean? And they all watched The Last Dance. So, like, you know, they all kind of came in and they all wanted to play, you know what I mean? Which was fantastic, you know what I mean? So we could facilitate that, you know, so.
It's great for us as a club, and we have an astronomical amount of members, and it's great. But obviously for us on the other side, it poses challenges in regards, you know, having enough coaches, and, you know, it's
split ourselves in 2.
You know, or you know, you're trying to manage them numbers, but obviously we want to cater for everybody, and that's a challenge to the club, it's a challenge to coaches, it's a challenge to parents, you know.
And the club is only as good, I suppose, you know, I suppose we depend on parents an awful lot, don't we? I mean, I know I'm a parent myself, and, you know, the kids go, and they, you know, some parents will, like ourselves, we went everywhere. I think it was our way of, you know, we, as our family unit, you know, it was basketball or it was football, or we were always there, you know, one of us was always there, you know. And but you do rely on parents to get kids to A and B, you know what I mean, to go to matches, you know, to give up time, petrol and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it's important that we can try and cater to everybody, but it is difficult at times to cater to everybody, you know what I mean? But parents are a very, very important part of the club as well. I think, you know, and I suppose if more parents got involved, like we've discussed before, it would be great, because they'll get to see how much work goes behind the scenes as well. And that was one thing that amazed me as well, you know, like it's like Wolves and joining of Sparks and Bullets together, that whole concept, and what Emer did, and Jim and Maeve and Gar McCreesta and everybody bringing all that concept together, and the Spark clubs, Barbara, like there's so much history of basketball in Drogheda. Bringing that all together was no, you know, was a lot of hard work, you know, and led by some brilliant people like Emer, who's my next request, just to let you know, Emer, you'll be the next person on, if possible. That was phenomenal experience. I mean, just to watch that whole, I got to learn about marketing and concept analysis and bringing stuff together. That was fantastic. You know, branding and stuff. You know, so but the parents there was a couple of parents involved with that as well that weren't coaching and stuff, so it was good. So.
Yeah, no, I think like as you said, like the emergence or the amalgamation of the two clubs was nothing shy of a monumental task. And obviously we're now reaping the benefits of having, you know, joint resources and being this one massive club. And, you know, I think it's created another bond in regards to obviously the two clubs coming together, but we're now getting the crossover between the boys and the girls. And, you know, we're now starting to see coaches who would have only coached boys and now coach girls and vice versa. And I think, like, I know some of us have talked about it before, but if you look at when we launched the club, like that was such a fantastic event where people actually got to integrate and meet each other and talk to each other. And you had parents who would have only been on the girls' side or, you know, on the boys' side. And, you know, there was that cross interaction, and it was fantastic. And I think going forward for our own basketball community and for us as a club, like, the more parents we get involved, the better it will be and benefit. And obviously you can see the benefits for yourself as a parent being involved in the club, even back from Bullets, and the people you've met and the kids' lives you've been able to change and help grow. And that's a fantastic thing. Even for me, who's not a parent, like I still get stopped in town by some of the kids I coached as a kid, like, you know, and I still have that interaction with them. And that for me is huge in regards that I've been able to be some benefit to them, you know. And
it is it's really rewarding. When I was looking back over, like, I'm only coaching 5 years. I mean, like, I really do feel like a novice and a fraud being here in one way, as I said to you before, from a coaching point of view. But being a member of the club, you know, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be part of the club, really. And it's only good, all good things have happened, really, you know. And I'm delighted. I mean, I haven't regretted any bit of it, you know. You know, it did take up personal time and weekends and, you know, laundry, washing gear and hanging gear out and getting gear ready in time. But, like, as I said to you, from my own personal point of view, it was a good distraction from work and stuff like that. But no, I don't see the club. I mean, I suppose, look back, Bullets to me, I just see it as Wolves now. And I think the whole merchandising, like, see you with your top on, actually, I suppose I probably should have worn my Wolves gear. But I have so much merchandise here. I have more hoodies and tracksuits and stuff. So, like, the concept of Bullets is gone. It didn't take long for it to go from the head either, you know what I mean? So, and I don't know, from, like, the Sparks and the girls, but it's just Wolves. Like, that's the way I feel it.
Yeah.
It's Drogheda Wolves, that sort of thing, you know. So I would recommend any parent to get involved. If they can in any way. And I know that All Help is gladly accepted, you know, team managers and, you know, helping with anything, you know, even with the 3v3. They said last night at the meeting, you know, that we've roped parents in to help, and it's been great. And their sons and daughters are involved, and the 3v3 tournament has been brilliant, you know, to watch it start. So we're back again now Monday night with the under 16 boys, so it'll be good. So.
Yeah, and obviously to give a shout out to our 3v3 league, like I was down at it last week, and it's great to see the kids compete again, but it's great to see them play. And, you know, that it's just great to be back at basketball. You know, it's that side of things is fantastic. So for you, obviously, you know, you as you said, you had a modest playing career, but obviously you've been involved as a parent and as a coach. And I know personally, like, we've pretty much seen most of the country in regards being away on away trips and being away to Billy Kelly with the boys. And so for you, it can be for you as a player, as a coach, as a parent. What has been your greatest basketball memory?
I knew you'd ask me that. Okay, well, I suppose my own playing career would be like winning Cork leagues, you know, that's what I was playing. But we were playing when the under 12 boys that I had, and I suppose the Orla McCrease would be laughing at all the parents that were involved. We went to Cavan to play in the top fours. I think it was under 12. It was only a couple of years ago, and we played Navan, and we were down 12 points going into the last quarter, and we were allowed to play. Conor McCrease must have said, "Siobhan, we can do man to man now," you know. I was like, "Can we?" And he was like, "Yeah." So we did man to man, and we like at the end. They you know, we were up, I think we won by a point to get into the final. but it was like as if we had won the NBA. You know, they'd come back from 12 down, we played man-to-man, we turned it around. Now, I know Navan were very, very unhappy with us because they got a 3-pointer, but there was no 3-pointers allowed under 12. So I was like, no 3-pointers allowed under 12, you know, so she got 2 baskets. They missed 2 baskets and we won by a point. And that was just, I remember that was just brilliant. You know, it was like as if we'd won the All-Ireland and it was under 12. And that was, I'll always remember that. And then beating Muckno by a point down in they've been fantastic. I like Owen and Cullum's games. As a parent, it's very difficult to watch your children. Like Maeve, I said, when I started coaching Cullum, and you know, when you're a parent to your child and then you're a coach to your child. So you've got a double whammy of pulling them in line, you know. And I said to Maeve one day, any advice for coaching your own kids? And she says, yeah, don't do it. You were the one who made me coach, you know. So I was very happy for him to go on to another coach, but for his sake, you know what I mean? Because the dynamics, you know, trying to bring him home and then you're being a parent and you're not, you know. So you know, I've loved watching the boys play. Your heart is in your mouth. You want them to do best. You want them to play as hard as they can. You can. I myself would be critical, and they know that, because I would. You don't want to say, oh, my son is brilliant, you know, that sort of thing, or anything like that, because everybody's learning and every day they have to improve and nobody's perfect. So there's always room for improvement in a game. But you're secretly proud of them when they do something really, really good, but you're ultimately critical. Well, I am. And, you know, like saying you could have defended that better, or your defense is this. And Owen would tell you that I would always kind of give him a hard time about his body language, you know, on the court. And maybe like he'd be playing and it was like as if he'd ran 100 marathons, and he'd kill me for saying this, and he'd be like, and I was like, oh, you have to pretend that you're not tired. You know, you just have to kind of keep it up there, you know what I mean? And pretend. And he said, but I'm exhausted, you know what I mean? But and with Cullum, you know, I know one day he scored like a 3-pointer and he ran down the court with the fingers like this, whatever, and I went like this, kind of mortified, and he looked at him and said, you do that again, you're sitting on the bench. And I was like, oh, thank God somebody said it to him, you know what I mean? So, but like they're moments that you remember, you know what I mean? And they still remember. Like basketball has been nothing but good for our family, really, overall. You know, Owen has, you know, become very sporty and athletic, and, you know, as you know, GA complements basketball and basketball complements, you know, Gaelic football, and, you know, it has, sport overall has been nothing but good for our family, and basketball has been the best, really. And I'm delighted that I got back into it. You know, but I'm happy if Maeve leaves me with the under 12s. Thanks very much. Unless I ask to go higher, but not at the moment, Maeve.
Well, at least you're getting your first in there, you know, in regards you're getting.
Oh, I've said it to her numerous times. Yeah.
It's now video and recorded, documented, and
Yeah.
that, you know, out there.
Yeah.
No, and look, obviously you've spoke about the positives and the challenge that it is, and, you know, from knowing you for the years I do, like, if one thing I know from yourself and Miles is that you're very honest and very straight. There's no hiding.
Sometimes to the detriment.
Look, it can be entertaining when you're on the sideline as well. Because you're like, who's making all that noise? Oh, there's fun.
Yeah, exactly. Maeve told me she's going to put a potato in my mouth one day. I mean, I suppose in fairness, okay, let's take it on the serious side. Maeve, as I said, made it look very easy. Okay, and I said, yeah, I can do that. But you really respect, when you step into the shoes of a coach, you really respect, you know, we say the knowledge that Maeve, Emer, Groggy, yourself, you know, who I've watched coaching over the years, you know, Aisling Ryan was with the under-7, you know, Dave Biggins. It is a strategic game, you know, and when you're trying to get the best out of players, even at training sessions, it's difficult. Yeah. You know, I find it difficult, you know, I mean, I'm not saying, so it's stressful at a different level, and I would be critical of myself, like, how am I going to get them to learn how to pass the ball to the right player at the right time? How am I going to teach them to be spacing and not bunched and run around like a bunch of sheep, you know, at that stage when they all want the ball? How am I going to teach them to be selfless players? You know, to be the player who makes the good pass, who gets the good rebound, who gives a good assist, you know. It's not all about scoring, but of course when you're 10 and 11 and 12, that's all you want to do is dribble and dribble and dribble and dribble and dribble. And when you take that away from them, I loved that. That's my favorite. I've learned little things over the years, like so we can't bounce the ball tonight. And they're like, what? You have to pass.
Yeah.
And, that sort of thing. So so I've learned, those things, but I like read and react. So it's gone up another level now. Okay. So I can say this to Gavin and to Emer and to Maeve, and they know this. So they've put the boundaries up a bit more. So old dog, new tricks, read and react, the circle and, all those sorts of things. I'm willing to learn it, but am I finding, so trying to be confident in teaching that. And when you watch somebody as expert as Maeve and yourself and Emer and people and Groggy, doing that sort of coaching, I was like, but they make it look so easy. But maybe it's just, taking small bits at a time. And if you make one small improvement, so Cathal Mooney is coaching with me, as you know, Jerson and Cathal, and we played the under-14 girls the other day, and Cathal said, oh, Siobhan, we're going to have to teach them all how to box out. So that's one thing you can work on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just take small bits, you know what I mean? But if you were, I suppose, looking for the negatives, I suppose the other thing about coaching is when you realize how much influence you have in a child.
Yeah.
If you look at them, so I'm like sensitive to the way people look at me or talk to me, or if they say something wrong, and did I offend them, did I not? Or, kids look at you because they want to play, and then if you don't play them, they're wondering, so I'm very sensitive, like, am I hurting that child's feelings? Did I say something too sternly? That sort of thing. But then if you go back and qualify it, saying, I'm only doing this because I think you can be a much better player, and give a positive as well as a constructive criticism, then you bring them on, it's all about positive encouragement, I've stopped shouting, I think, a little bit at the side, I think.
Well, look, it comes like, I think with everything, especially for me, and I'd like to omit my name from that list of coaches that you said.
Well, no, don't.
I'm still bluffing it. Obviously, like when I work with Gav now, and I'm blown out, and as you said with Maeve, like I had the privilege of working with Maeve for the last 2 years, probably longer actually. And when you see them coaching, just how effort it is, and like, how do you do this? I'm still trying to learn how to do that, and I am absolutely nowhere near, so I'd like to omit my name from that. But I think you're right in regards, you need to keep constantly build, you need to constantly learn, you need to build your own repertoire. And it is very much learning from your mistakes, or the constant question of, well, how can I improve that? How can I make that better? How can I make that session better? How can I deliver better to the players or my group of players? And then obviously, how can I make them better is obviously the end result. But you also need to look at yourself and how can you make you as a better coach. And I know that's something you work on, because we've gone to some of the coaching seminars in Dublin, and I think if you stop doing that, that's when you're in trouble. If you don't have the constant.
I would agree. And I like also, I suppose if somebody said to me, well, if they're still coming back, Siobhan, you know what I mean? So the kids, so you must be doing something right, you know what I mean? So you try to take the positives, and it's trying to, as you said, like, I would feel underconfident, so I want to make sure that I'm kind of keeping on top of things. And also you have to keep it fun. I suppose the kids who are going to excel and who are going to get better and they're going to take off themselves. And you can see those kids, it's like when you send your kids to school, into secondary school, it's like the first thing, Owen and Cullen going to secondary school. The kid who's getting A's in all their exams, and they say they don't study. Oh, they are.
Yeah, of course.
So the kids, so I said, so believe me, I said, the kid, and I said, so the kid who's saying, no, I didn't do any study yet, I got an A, they are studying, you know what I mean? So the kid who's getting better at basketball is actually practicing.
Yeah.
They do. So that's what you tell them. I only get to spend an hour and 15 minutes with you every week, or maybe fortunately when we were lucky, I had 2 sessions. Yeah. So, you tell them, I can only do so much. If you want to get better, you have to practice at home. And those kids, you'll see them, that's the most rewarding thing. It's like when you see a kid, doing something that they hadn't done before, but they practiced, or, they do a cut, or they, and you can reward them, or they can give a good pass or something like that. You can see that they're getting a bit more intelligent on the court. They get an IQ for the game, and they can see, and it's becoming like, that's what I felt last week with them, that they were selfless players, that they were passing to their player who was ahead of them. It wasn't all about them dribbling in, you know what I mean? So that's what I find rewarding, you know, and also you have to have a bit of fun in the game as well, because if it gets too serious, then, you know, kids will be like, oh, I'm not enjoying this. So you have to kind of have a bit of crack in there as well, you know. So I'm sure they see me as a granny, you know, like my hair was grey until last week. Maybe you think it's still grey, but I actually got it. You know, I'm sure they look and say, I have this really old lady who's coaching me, you know, because I know how I looked at my coaches. They were ancient, you know, that sort of thing. But I'm sure they're looking at me going, yeah, what does she know? But they come back, so I must be doing something right.
I think that's the ultimate test, is once they keep returning every week. But if it makes you feel any better, puts you any at ease, the same challenges you're talking about, spacing, boxing out, passing the ball ahead, being unselfish, they're some of the struggles that we have at National League. So if it makes you feel any better, our National League guys suffer with that as well.
I'm not moving from under 12.
Gab wants more assistant coaches. So
no, thanks.
We can do a role swap. I'll go back to under 12s and you can come up to National League.
No, you're grand, thanks. No.
But no, ultimately that for me, I think is the litmus paper and the test in regards that your kids keep coming back week in, week out. And for me, that you will see the ones that want to develop, but you will also see the ones that, you know, need that quiet word because, you know, they may be shy, they may be unconfident, they may lack that. But I think for us, it's giving them the skills. And I think through sport, they gain that confidence and they gain them skills. And then obviously being with their friends at basketball or their friends at school, and they become lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And
I think, like, you know,
development.
Yeah, like, you know, so there's 15 players on a GAA pitch. You know what I mean? There's 5 players on a basketball team on the court. You know, and so, you know, so the chances of you getting play, you know, that's the way I kind of see it. That's why I think Basketball Ireland have it sussed, you know, from a team development point of view, that, you know, they say, you know, you're not going to learn unless you're actually playing. You know what I mean? So the more game experience, and that's where I feel that the kids have lost out, I suppose, from last year. My crew is that if they had played a lot of games, you know, we mightn't have won the league, or we mightn't have, you know, but they would have improved from a match point of view. You know what I mean? And the whole sort of you know, the IQ of the game, like how you play well and how you play smart and what works well, you know, that's how they miss out. And that's how you develop it through, like, you can do drills and you can do pass and cut, you know, sort of thing. But it's not until you're actually in a game experience, and also it's teaching that hunger, you know. So when the kids come off at time, I think you have to want the ball more than the other team. You have to want it more than them. You have to take it off them. You know what I mean? So you have to be really hungry for the ball. You know what I mean? And that only comes with gaining experience. You know what I mean? So.
Most definitely. And I think you're right. Like, it's our younger members that are, you know, they've missed out on a year and a half, and you look at it now, and that's the bedrock, and they're the fundamentals, and that's where you start building your house as such, if you look at it that way. Like, you need to be able to put the foundations in regards to teaching the fundamentals, and then you build on it, and then you build on it, and then obviously they hopefully grow and become our next National League superstars. You know.
Isn't it great that the club has actually aspired to that and is almost there? You know, I mean, we have a National League team. It's absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I know, like, with Emer, with the under 16 teams, you know, like, they're the next. So that's, you know, under the 15 and 16-year-olds, you know what I mean? The boys who are already playing under 18, they're the next, you know, National League players, it's great that the club has gone that far. It's brilliant. And it's hopefully the ladies will follow now soon as well, which will be great. I'm beginning to think now, maybe, you know, would I like to coach on the ladies' side, you know, with the girls and stuff, like under 12 though.
that's the right age to get.
I suppose because it's open to us, you know what I mean, you know. But I do enjoy the boys are great, you know what I mean. I think the personalities are great as well, you know. You get great crack out of them.
I think it's great, obviously, when you get them, let's say, at that entry level of playing, and then, as you said, their personalities, but when you're able to watch them grow in a couple of years and see how they develop and see their personalities grow, as well as them develop as people and players, and them interactions change, and for me that's great. But I think the buzz I got at coaching, let's say, under 12s, for me was phenomenal in regards, I didn't care whether we won or lost, and I told the kids that I just wanted them to play basketball, because when you see players that, you know, let's say for the couple of weeks you've worked in something and it comes off in a game, and everyone kind of buys in and everyone goes, oh, we've done that in training. And you're like, yeah, that's why we've done it. And then you get that buzz, or, you know, you say I hate using this term, you say you're 11th or 12th player, wherever it may be, but they may be, as you rightly said earlier, they may be one of your late bloomers, but if they've had a tough time in games in the past, and then suddenly, you know, they make that cut or they make that Euro step and they finish at the basket and they make a layup that they haven't done in a game, that's a trigger for them, and that becomes a memory, and they get a buzz out of that. But I think the ultimate buzz.
I think the transition, you know, from, you know, under 12 to under 14 to under 16 is when it all falls into place, and they should become selfless players, you know what I mean? And it is, and I think that's one thing that I'd have to admire Emer for when I watch her coaching Cullum's team. You know, that it is about the team.
Yeah.
It's not about the one player. And when I was playing, you know, when I was playing basketball, I think I suppose I would have stayed on for the whole game, you know what I mean? And I would only have got off if we were winning by whatever. And I'm not saying that to blow, but that was the way it was, because you could do that, you know what I mean? So, because again, sound like a broken record, Basketball Ireland have that every player has to play under 12, has to play 1 quarter, no one can play more than 2 quarters. You get them in there. And then when they get to under 14, and when you see it, it's all about the person being in the right place at the right time, making the cut, the pass, you know, the fast break, the cutout, and it's all about the team and the team winning, not the one player making all the baskets, you know what I mean? Because we all know that one player won't win a game, you know, there's no I in team, so, you know, that sort of thing. So it is about the team, and that is a skill. That's what I would say, like Maeve and yourself and Emer and Groggy, it's getting that teamwork going, you know, as well. So
yeah, and obviously, as you said, like you've only 5 players from your team that take to the court at any stage, and if you have a supposed weak link, or if you have, you know, a selfish player, it's going to stand out, because it's not like soccer where you have 11 players and someone can hide, or you know, Gaelic, you know, you have 15 players and someone can hide. It's a lot harder in basketball, and I think by having that, your team creates stronger bonds in regards to that. They need to be able to go, okay, no, we all need to do this. And if one of us stops doing it because we're annoyed with how another player is, it falls apart very quickly.
Yeah, and I think as a coach as well of the underage, that's part of your responsibility. Well, you know, with your skills and your fundamentals and playing, it's how you how you interact with the other kids, you know what I mean? And that it's important to pull the kids aside and saying, you're not being very nice, or to the, you know, in a diplomatic way, kind of saying, you know, this is about a team. One person's going to win the game. And one of my kids, I said it to him the other night at training, he has changed totally in the last. I'm not going to take credit for that. I mean, I just think he's matured. You know what I mean? He's more coachable, and he's more pleasant to be with, and it's like as if the penny has dropped with him. Does that make sense? Like, he has skill, he knows he has skill, but he also knows that he's part of a team, which I think is really, really good. And I said it to him, I said, you know, you're a different kid than you were the last time. I find it very easy to coach you now. I didn't have to say anything negative. I said it to the mother as well, because it's important that they understand where you're coming from, you know what I mean? That you can say, your child is lovely to work with, you know what I mean? And he's very nice to the other kids, you know what I mean? Which is, so they feed that back, and it's positive rather than negative. You know, you'd rather to go with the positives, you know, rather than go with the negatives.
It makes your job as a coach a lot easier. And I think, and I know I've said it before, like, but I think the whole COVID and, you know, being without basketball for nearly a year and a half, like, I think it's put perspective on everything for everybody, especially for a kid. And I'm sure you can testament with your 2 boys and how active they would have been pre-COVID to it just suddenly, it's like a rug that was pulled out, was stopped.
It was difficult. It was really difficult. You know, I think the first batch of COVID, Miles and I were very happy to sit out the back. The weather was lovely and we'd nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And that went after a month. You know what I mean? We're like, oh my. And then, you know, putting the videos up for the lads to play, you know, doing the practice and stuff like that. And Owen actually got fit in COVID. That's what he did. You know what I mean? He actually went out, and because that was the only way he was doing his leaving cert, he actually went out and did his own strength and conditioning and went running. But it was difficult for them. And it, you know, hopefully we haven't lost players because of that. Like, fitness levels have suffered. I think you've probably noticed that yourself with your own team. I noticed some of my players. Well, yeah, and myself as well. You know what I mean? But you know, we have to get them back. And I think if we keep on going through the summer with the, you know, Maeve's camps that are going to come up, and we've had the June and May and June, you can already see a difference in them. They were exhausted after the first session. I let them just play a game. Some of them couldn't even run up and down the court, you know what I mean? But that's got better, so that'll only get better. But they won't be long catching back, you know.
But the main thing is obviously that they are now back involved in sport, which is fantastic. And as you said, yes, we will lose players, but I think through this we will gain lots of new players, and that gives a rejuvenation to the club. And you get new players, and you will get new parents hopefully involved, and you get new outlook, and you get new perspective. And I think this is going to be the main thing. Is I think everyone's going to come out of this with newfound positivity, but a new outlook and everything.
Yeah, I think everything is positive about the club, really. You can't say, well, that's my own perspective, maybe I'm biased, but I think the foundations are really, really strong. You know, we've got the genius of Emer and Maeve and Jim. You know, it's really, really good. I mean, like at the AGM last night, everything was just so organized, and there was nobody being begged to do jobs. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, people were very willing to give that, which is fantastic. You know, I've done the club in Mallow. I was talking to somebody, you know, trying to get somebody to do the fixtures. It was like people were running miles away. You know what I mean? So we're very, very lucky. I mean, you know, I was sitting there going, I'll just take my video off and my microphone off and hope that all the jobs are gone. So as the jobs are going down, I was like, oh, thank God. Because people are so worried, you know what I mean? So, and I would find it hard to say no, but that's fine. It's like, oh, that's grand. So I'll help out in any way I can. I'll volunteer. I'll do whatever I can do, you know. And I'm still waiting for the Christmas party, which Maeve knows about. I only joined because of the Christmas party, but there hasn't been one.
I think when restrictions ease an awful lot more, I think there's going to be one hell of a party. There has been plenty of special occasions, and there's been special
when they win National League and when they win the All-Ireland Sub-Championships and all that sort of thing. Even if we don't win, we'll have to have some sort of celebration. Because
I just think when restrictions ease, there's going to be, because like I know from when I had the ladies and I had the under-18s, like there was, just as things got stopped for us, like after that there was a couple of special birthdays. They never happened, so just quite a lot on the club. There was, you know, I actually never brought up a Groggy. They never congratulated Groggy. Groggy got engaged.
That's right.
Thought that would have happened. You know, just them types of things have happened that there's not been like a formal celebration for. So I think that's something that everyone's going to look forward to, and that's going to be a hell of a weekend. I won't say night, I'll say weekend.
Okay.
And I know we've talked previously before, we're trying to organise Christmas parties and they've never happened because...
That's just a long-going joke with me. I said, I'm only here for the Christmas party.
Because obviously basketball got involved and got on the way. But, you know, I think you're right, like everything is positive for us and we have such a huge positive outlook. So just to kind of wrap things up. So as a parent, coach, committee member, volunteer, what one piece of advice would you give to our younger Wolfpack members?
I think enjoy what sport can give you, and that's the, you know, and I think what Elaine said, I know, because she was, I suppose I listened to Elaine, like, just be yourself, be true to yourself, and if you know, I suppose if you practice, you reap what you sow, you know, you reap what you sow. So if you put the practice in, the rewards will come. And that would be it, really. Enjoy it, is what I would say. If at all possible, enjoy the experience that sports can give you. I know it's benefited my kids and it benefited me, really. I've enjoyed reflecting on it, actually, to be honest. I didn't think I would.
That's good. And I know, as you were talking to you before this, you were quite nervous and quite modest. And
I'm not one for not talking, Noel, so I don't think, you know, I have a bit of verbosity, I suppose, but I've enjoyed it. It's been good, actually.
I was never fearful of this being a quiet conversation. But that's what it's about. It's just about us having a chat and you know, as you said, reminiscing, and it's brought some really nice memories for you. And it's been a hugely positive experience, and that's what I want to get out and I want to get across to people. So
I would recommend anybody to get involved in the club, really, to be honest. And I know that everybody would be appreciative in any way. And you know, the parents are very good overall, you know, with their time. and with their money, I suppose, when it comes to fundraising, and we've been very lucky. When we went looking for support, we got it. You know what I mean? But we can always take more help. So I'm sure if anybody wanted to get involved, the door is always open for help. So
most definitely. So you were put in the spotlight. It's now time for you to put someone in the spotlight.
Well, I admire her as a coach, and I think what she did with the club, bringing the two clubs together. I know she wasn't the only person involved in it, but her work that she did, I would just be fascinated to listen to Emer's story. Emer Howard.
I'm still working on Emer. We're still in negotiations. So, I've been talking to Emer, and obviously Emer with her job, she's quite busy, and she's obviously super dedicated to coaching and to the coaching that group of hugely talented boys. So I'm trying to get Emer on for a 2-part. I want to get her story and journey, but I also then want to get the delve and the deep insight in regards to what you alluded to, and
it was phenomenal.
The vision of Wolves. Yeah, and how that came about, and that's something I'm working on in regards with a couple of other people. So
very good.
Super.
Anyway, that's who I would like to hear. Just because her basketball, I know she played in the States and stuff like that, and her international career, and just her work with the boys as well, and her coaching. She put so much time in. She's to be admired, really. And I don't mean to single one person out, but I suppose I was asked. Everybody's the coaches in the club, does give time and stuff like that. But she has done an awful lot. I'm, amazed at the amount of work that she's done, the commitment that she's given. So, and Maeve as well. But I've heard Maeve talking already on the podcast as well. So, on her podcast from the States and stuff like that. So that was very good.
With Tim, yeah.
And Jim, actually, as you said as well, actually, Jim, somebody said Jim's groggy wanted to have Jim on, yeah.
Again, he's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
I have to get him away from the bees. So look, Siobhan, I really appreciate it, and I'm really very thankful that you've come and joined me.
You're very welcome. I'm done now, so that's me done. Anyway, no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a million, Noel. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
No bother.
Hopefully you get to enjoy the sun and enjoy the weekend.
Will indeed. Going to Cork.
Oh, very nice.
Okay. Thanks a million, Noel.
Thank you very much. You have it, our latest episode with Siobhan. Thanks so much to Siobhan for giving up her time and joining me and having a catch up and a chat about our club and her involvement in the club. Again, please remember to like, share and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. And stay tuned for the next episode coming soon. See you then. Bye-bye.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.